So today I want to talk about how to fix a problem that I hear about a lot from studio to studio, and that is sticker shock with pricing when people come in. And that can be even after your best efforts of educating them on prices. You might have told them about pricing on the phone, you might have sent them a price list, you might have, whatever the case may be, but they still come in and claim that they're not aware of prices. So I'd like to tell you about how I go about fixing that and how to fix that problem. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Richard. I'm a full-time studio owner and photographer. Our studio turns over multiple six figures per annum and we're on our way to turning over $1 million. And I make these videos because I want to establish credibility as a speaker and also to help other photographers in the industry of photography. And a quick note, I'm wearing my Black Sabbath tour t-shirt from many years ago in tribute to Ozzy Osbourne, who passed away a couple of weeks ago, who seemed to be a part of my life the whole time I've been alive. So let's talk about this. So I hear this quite a lot. So what happens is you'll make a booking, you'll explain to people the prices, or you'll send them a price list or whatever the case may be. They turn up and then they claim that you didn't tell them, or they look shocked about the pricing or whatever the case may be. This happens quite a lot. And this is a cause of endless discussion in various business forums, okay? And the common feeling is that you could send like a town crier around to their house with a bugle and announce prices at their doorstep, and they still wouldn't remember the pricing. So how do you fix it? So let me tell you a story if that's okay. I know I tell a lot of stories. Now, I told this story in a recent course that I presented in a different place, and it's something that stuck with me for a long time, and it goes back to when I did computer work for a living, okay? We used to have this client years ago who manufactured and supplied swimming pools. And in addition to building them and installing them, they had retail outlets where they supply the ongoing chemicals and chlorine and salt and acid and all that sort of stuff, okay? And in those retail outlets, they had these old computers, these old DOS computers, for those old enough to remember DOS, the black screen with the blinking cursor. And they are really shitty machines, and they used to run this scientific software where people could bring in their water samples. They'd put the water samples into a test tube, okay? They'd put the test tube into this thing. This light would go and it would read out the content of the water and what people needed to buy for their supplies for their swimming pool, okay? Now, whenever these machines broke down, it was always the absolute end of the world, okay? And we had to get out there as quickly as we could to fix them. And one day I just said to them out of curiosity, I said, look, I get that this is inconvenient, but obviously it's not the end of the world. Like, you obviously need to know how to assess water manually, the old-fashioned way. And they said, yeah, that's true, we do. But when we do that, people argue with us about what they need, meaning they think they know better when we do it manually. But when we do it on a machine with a computer, no one ever questions the results and always just buys what they need. And I went, oh, okay. So for them, it wasn't about convenience or anything like that. For them, it was more of a sales tool. And that really stuck with me. So whenever I run into problems now, repetitive problems that come up over and over again, I think of that and I call it the test tube solution, okay? So getting back to what we started at the beginning, so the problem we've got is you've had these conversations with people on the phone, okay? They've come into your studio and they're claiming or making faces or whatever the case may be that they weren't aware of the prices. Now, I'm not talking about ambushing people with prices. I'm talking about you've done the right thing, you told them the prices on the phone, or you've quoted them specifically, or some people send price lists, some people send like a video price list. Doesn't really matter, whatever the case may be, the fact is you have told them the prices and you need to convey to them that you've told the prices. So, what's the test tube method for this? All right, so let me tell you the way that I do it. So what happens is, this is really, really simple and I encourage people to do it. It's almost like a magic bullet. It's almost so good I didn't want to share this for free. But, having said that, now, so I thought about this a lot. And the one thing I can say for sure is that people can't argue with themselves, okay? Meaning if people have said things, then they can't argue with that. So the way that I tackle it now is, and I used to do this when I did also, pets and families as well. I would have a sheet like this, okay, on a clipboard, and on this sheet here, I've got here a summary of our conversations. I've got a summary of the correspondence that we've had. What I'm mainly going for is the summary of the phone calls that I've had. And so when they come into the studio, in our case, I put them into hair and makeup. If you're not a boudoir photographer, you can just put them on the couch or whatever and give them a cup of tea or something like that. Doesn't matter. But the point being is, I will read out to our makeup artist what the conversations I've had. Now, let me give you an example. This is one from yesterday. Okay, so I will say to our, in this case, our makeup artist is Justina. I'll say, look, Justina, this I've crossed out her name because I don't want to reveal her name. Okay. I'll say, look, let's call her Sarah. Okay. So look, Sarah's never done this before. Sarah's been on a weight loss journey and she's lost 30 kilos, so she's done really well there. She's been referred by our mutual client. And in Sarah's case, she wants to feel more like herself. She wants to feel confident and proud about what she's achieved and all those types of things. She's single. She lives in Caloundra. She's got and after her weight loss journey, she dyed her hair red. She got a whole heap of tattoos, so I went for the full transformation. Now, the reason I say all that stuff is because all that stuff that I've just told our makeup artist, right, is stuff that I would only know because she has told me. Does that make sense, right? So basically, I'm repeating back exactly what the client has said. Okay. So after the hair and makeup is done, right, excuse me, I can then go on, I then go through the products with them or show them the things that I've quoted them on the phone, whatever the case may be. So let's have a look at what we've done here so far. They've come into the studio, in our case, they've come into the studio. I've reiterated back what I've told them. I've proved to them that I've listened to them. But the point being is that, like I just said, I have in fact demonstrated that I have been listening to them and I've repeated back what they've said. So when I get to the next bit, which is showing them all the stuff in our reception, if you go to our webpage on our website, which is thriveboudoir.com.au, there's a video at the bottom of our webpage, which has got behind the scenes of a shoot. You can see our reception there. So in her case, I'll say, look, when we spoke on the phone, we talked about getting an album and I quoted you $1,900 for our basic album. But before we do that, let me show you all the other stuff that I mentioned in the price range that we talked about. So on the phone, so this is how I talk to them. I'll say, look, on the phone, before I show you the album, let me show you the price range of stuff that we mentioned. And we have wall art from $550 all the way through to $3,900. And I'll go through all the items like that. And so because I've established the fact at the beginning that I've been listening to them and I'm repeating back what they've said, when I get to this bit, even if they don't remember that we've had this conversation or remember the prices that I've quoted them or whatever the case may be, they will believe what I'm saying. In other words, they won't regard me with suspicion. So now, just to be clear, just to be 100% clear, I'm not gaslighting anyone. I'm not manipulating anyone, anything like that. All I'm doing is finding a way to reiterate back to them what we've talked about, and so that when we get into the sales room later on, they're not going, oh my God, I didn't realize it was that much. So I'm setting myself up for success by talking back about what we've quoted. Okay, and I do it all off it's super simple. It's just a sheet of paper like this, and that's basically it. That's my secret weapon. And I try and do that with everything I do in business. I call it the test tube method. So if I have a problem that happens repetitively over and over again, I think, right, how can I fix this for good? Meaning, in other words, how do I problem solve this and get rid of this problem? And that's where I actually think that business is really creative, okay? And this is what I think that people forget. People think that business is all about being boring and being competitive and being ruthless and all that sort of stuff. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's usually a case of solving problems with creative solutions. And I like to solve problems with creative things like this in general. I don't like to try and solve problems with contracts and pre-sales and things like that. I find that in fact, in a weird way, you're doing is you can do yourself a bit of a disservice and leave a lot of money on the table by being so strict at the beginning, and also make it really hard to book people in. So there you go. So that's what I call the test tube method. That's why it's called the test tube method. Look, I really hope you implement something like this for your business. Like I kind of alluded to, if you're a pet photographer, you could do it the same thing. You could say, when we spoke on the phone about Fido, right, we talked about these things, and Fido's allergic to salmon or whatever the case may be, and you can repeat back the conversation you've had. And then when you get to the bit about prices, you can reiterate what you've spoken about pricing. You can do it with families, you can do it with anything, honestly, anything. Anything to do with portrait studios. So there you go. Look, I hope you got something out of this. If you are subscribed to the channel, I'd love you to leave a comment and tell me what you thought about that. Yeah, if you're not subscribed and you got value from this, I would love you to subscribe to the channel. But until next time, keep on trucking, have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it.